Good afternoon, and welcome to our second mini masterclass titled Navigating the Supply Chain Management Fast Lane, Enhancing Your Personal Agility. We are thrilled to have you join us for this insightful session designed specifically for young professionals and recent graduates in supply chain management. This series of masterclasses is dedicated to equipping you with the vital interpersonal and communication skills that will enhance your effectiveness and adaptability in the dynamic world of supply chain management. As you embark on or advance in your careers, these skills are crucial for navigating the complexities of the professional environment and seizing growth opportunities. Today, we are privileged to host two distinguished speakers who bring a wealth of experience and knowledge to our session. First, we have Regina Naicker, the Head of Business Development at Africa Castrol. Regina will share her expertise in her presentation, Navigating the Journey to Work-Life Balance. Her insights will help you understand how to achieve a balance between professional demands and personal life, a key component in sustaining long-term career success and personal well-being. Our second speaker is Dikeledi Sathekge, a seasoned professional in business transformation at Coca-Cola. Dikeledi will present on working in fast-paced organizations, Supply Chain Management Edition. This session promises to provide valuable strategies for thriving in high-velocity environments and adapting to the rapid changes in modern supply chains. Additionally, we are honored to have Claire Fincham from SAPIX, our esteemed partner and co-host. Claire will provide more information about SAPIX, the leading professional body for supply chain professionals in South Africa. She will also be available to answer any questions you may have about SAPIX in the chat. At the end of today's presentation, we will have a Q&A session where you can engage directly with our speakers. Please feel free to post your questions in the chat throughout the presentation. We will address as many as possible. Before we dive into the presentations, I would like to remind our UNISA students to please provide feedback on these mini masterclasses on your respective model sites. Your feedback is vital in helping us refine and improve these sessions. So without any further ado, let's get started. And I'm so excited to introduce our first speaker. Regina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Weber, and it is such a privilege to be with you. So the instruction is to turn off my camera, but to make sure that I said a really good afternoon to the team. So as I said, my name is Regina Naicker, and I'm extremely honored and humbled to be sharing this platform with you today so that I can share some of the strategies that I have learned over my career to support and enhance my work-life balance. So I'm going to put up my slide. If you could just let me know once you could see it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Great, thanks. So what an incredible journey this has been for me. And I can assure you it is not an easy one, especially balancing being a mom of 3 and navigating a full-time job while part-time studying all of my academic qualifications. I remain highly blessed that I work for an organization like BP that supports my want for growth and development. Post my MBA, I knew that there was still so much more to learn and so much more to achieve, and comfortable that I have an organization that supports my growth there. Part-time studies is by no means an easy journey. It does provide one with the flexibility to balance your work and responsibilities and accountabilities whilst managing your family commitments, provided that one is willing to make those necessary sacrifices, coupled with finding the right structures and strategies to enable this. And so there can be no greater joy when one excels after undertaking such a challenging journey. So what does this journey look like for me? I'm currently the head of business development for Africa, for Castrol. I've been working for BP for the last 22 years. I'm currently leading an expansion product of increasing our footprint in Africa. And this project is based on a successful launch last year where I led local blending operationalization. I've had a very long career that has spanned 30 years with many challenges and many successes. My roles have included leading a warehousing and distribution facility for Africa, leading a bulk fuels terminal, to ERP integration, legal compliance, change management. And so today's masterclass is aimed at emphasizing work-life balance, and hopefully in sharing this journey, it could help support you so that you can have a more fulfilled, purposefully happier balance. So I've decided to use my career and life as a practical case study to help understand some of the challenges that I've gone through and hopefully the strategies that have helped me to attain a better work-life balance. Remember, the career choice as a supply chain specialist is a challenging one to begin with because it's one of those careers that involves extensive studying, extreme time pressures. It's about bringing multiple teams together, sensitive timelines, and linking very different segments of business together in order to deliver very successful outcomes. And all of this at a very fluid environment at the very best of times, which tends to put a lot of pressure on both your professional life as well as your personal life. I started my studies at the University of Natal, and my plans was to actually specialize in economics. And by the end of my second year, I was quickly made aware that I couldn't return to university as my family could not fund my studies further. There was my first challenge already. So I had to leave the University of Natal and find employment in order for me to fund my studies. So at the tender age of 19, I experienced my first work-life challenge, which is a lack of finances. And that's something most people can relate to. So I applied for and I started working for the Department of Health under the Nelson Mandela Reconstruction and Development Program. And before I knew it, life takes over and I was planning a wedding. So suddenly I was balancing my new financial, domestic, marriage, studies, and work responsibilities. And so you can only imagine at the tender age of 21, the number of adjustments I was learning to make. At the time I had graduated with my BCom degree, my family had grown with the arrival of my daughter. And so she was actually present at my first graduation. And with this came a fantastic opportunity for me to be able to take on an international graduate trainee program. But with this program, what an incredible opportunity. Also came along challenges, which required me to relocate to Pretoria, convincing a reluctant husband to relocate and secure a job for himself, and finding a new home without my own infrastructural support, creating a huge amount of stress on my marriage, my family life, as well as the additional strain as I was still a part-time student completing my honors degree, whilst trying to shine as a graduate. This juggling of a number of responsibilities and challenges are the work-life challenges we're referring to. My graduate program continued to progress, and I was extremely blessed when BP Aviation offered me a role in 2002. Life again has a way of throwing you curveballs all the time. And in the month that I started working for BP, my dad had suddenly passed on. So as a young employee, I was now responsible for 2 households as my mom and family required financial, emotional, and practical support. This requires deep resilience to be able to handle significant loss in one's family, as well as the responsibilities that it comes with. One needs to be able to have relevant tools at hand to be able to manage these difficult phases in one's life. But my career continued to progress extremely well. I completed my honors degree, then went on to register for my master's, and once again, my family grew with the welcoming of my second daughter, and 3 months later, the loss of an only brother. So as my family grew, I continued to study my MBA, and in fact, my daughter was born after my first semester exam. So again, challenges of having to come home after a long day's work, preparing still for work, taking care of the family and household chores, and then making time for studies late at night. And in 2007, I graduated with my master's. And then 2008, welcomed my son and got an opportunity to be part of a project team that designed a centralized warehousing and distribution facility for Castrol, and then successfully went on to lead that facility. In 2011, I was appointed as the Island View Terminal Manager, a leader of a hydrocarbon facility based in Durban. It was one of BP's biggest facilities, a high-risk terminal, and again, different strategies needed to be employed to be able to manage challenges that I faced. A high-risk environment, 24/7, which meant I kept on my phone 24 hours a day. I had to respond to emergencies, found myself working in a completely male-dominated environment, working with unions, in PPE, basically working with overalls all day, and making sure my key responsibility of making sure my teams got home safely every day. And so these stresses and strains creates huge amounts of impact on both your family life as well as work. And it's not long before that I found myself readjusting on my family life, relocating from Durban, and at the height of my career, I found myself having to go through a heart attack. So now, physically sick, in ICU, and at the point in time, I recognized that I needed to make some fundamental changes because I was not coping. And that's the reason why I was extremely happy when Dr. Weber asked if I would participate in this particular masterclass, to actually share some of the strategies that have helped me find better realignment. Post my recovery, with the right support structures, I continued to advance my career, support my family, and be able to continue my studies. So this is the reason, one of the main reasons I wanted to share this journey with you is, like you, I had a plan when I finished my first degree. And what I didn't cater for was all the things that life brings to you. And so I did not, at that point in time, understand the importance of being able to pause, reflect, review, and realign. And whilst that sounds pretty simple, I didn't at the time recognize the importance. In today's very dynamic global market, opportunities are driven by the growing complexities of international trade, ever-changing advancements in technology, the need for efficient resource management. And we are in a field that is critical for optimizing supply chains, for managing efficient resources, and being able to provide effective solutions supporting the enhancement of resilient supply networks. So before I go on to share some of those strategies, what is life and work-life balance? You know, it's defined as being a state of equilibrium in which the demands of one's personal life as well as your job are unequal. Sounds simple, but loosely translated, there should be enough time to support and manage work commitments and your personal responsibilities. And that's where the challenge is, the amount of time that we have available. We live in a stressful environment. Each of us deals with stresses in very different ways. There's so much conflict between work and family commitments. And there's real consequences which significantly impacts on the quality of your life and career. And so now I want to move on to the strategies that I have used that have certainly helped me. The first one is being able to set realistic goals, breaking down long-term goals into manageable tasks, applying this not just to your professional life, but to your personal life, which helps us in progressing in both areas. This also helps you in being able to track the areas of focus, knowing when to make the relevant adjustments when required, being able to define your short-term and your long-term objectives helps you balance that focus and maintain direction while you remain flexible in your approach. The second is seeking support. And this requires you to be able to have honest, robust conversations, and it starts with you. then your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Being able to engage and communicate as effectively as you can in terms of what is the support that you are needing in order for you to deliver your key goals and objectives. And this also creates a platform for you to be able to look at flexible opportunities. Having the right support structures means staying around positive people that will encourage your growth, that will be able to help you find solutions to challenges that you have. But it all starts with having a positive mindset and surrounding yourself with like-minded positive people. Now, the third is something I cannot stress hard enough, is focusing on self-care. Focusing on self-care really entails making time for yourself. And this could come in the form of regular exercise, eating adequately, sleeping. It all contributes to better performance in all areas of your life. It is important to acknowledge that one can only deliver as effectively and successfully if they are taking care of their mental, their physical, and emotional well-being. Build resilience and strengthen your abilities to recover during tough times. For there certainly will be enough tough times as you navigate your journey. And most important is to remain motivated during these tough times. The fourth is networking and learning. Again, this is something I wish I'd learned a lot earlier in my career, is networking and learning encompasses building not just connections just on the academic side, but connections in your field and seeking the right levels of support from mentorship, continuous learning, and networking can open up several doors and provide guidance throughout your career. Embracing challenges as learning opportunities and remain open to new experiences and perspectives. Develop problem-solving skills that allows you to be creative in the way in which you navigate effectively. Networking, as an example, by joining platforms such as this, which provides you the academic support structures, but there's industry support structures. I am a chartered member of the Chartered Institute of Logistics as a perfect example that provides the right networking platforms so that you can learn as well as connect with the relevant organizations as you progress your career. Continuous learning by acquiring new skills and knowledge to stay relevant and adaptable in very different circumstances. An example is also tapping into what is happening in industry. As an example, in October, around about the 25th of October, the Chartered Institute will be hosting an empowerment leadership conference. So it's opportunities like that that gives you platforms to network. Time management. And again, this sounds pretty simple, but actually it's not. Using the right tools like calendars, reminders, task management apps allows you to stay a lot more focused and allows you to better understand your priorities, as well as enables you to be able to manage your deadlines. Schedules that balances your work, your schooling, as well as your family time helps you manage your responsibilities a lot more effectively, allowing for you to prioritize your tasks based on urgency. Again, taking the time to recognize when you need to pause, review, reflect, and realign. And then the last point is establishing boundaries. Clearly knowing your roles and responsibilities as you do this transition and defining the time that you would need to achieve this. Remember, it's important to factor time for yourself and family, which means at times you would need to learn to be able to have very courageous conversations, because that would require you to be able to say no at some time. Being able to navigate and support work-life balance has benefits not just for you. It has benefits for your environment, your work environment. It boosts morale. It increases your want to be able to share more, retaining of organizational knowledge, especially during these very difficult times. So if you were to do some takeaways, just by managing strategies, you are improving your health, reducing your stress, reducing any avenues of burnout. It increases your productivity with increased focus. It enables better relationships and certainly more job satisfaction. And so what I'd like to then share with you is some pearls of wisdom, if I may. What I've learned is we have only one life, so please treasure it. Find your purpose. Find what really grounds you and what you're passionate about. And when you find your purpose, go after that with passion. You need to believe in yourself. Never forget the challenges that you have overcome to get to this point. And as you start to navigate your own journey, never lose the faith in yourself. Know that everyone has a different journey, so never compare your journeys. Develop a self-confidence in your abilities to succeed. Never be too proud to ask for help and guidance. And there's some of those strategies of learning and networking comes in. Never be too proud to ask for help when you're struggling. Be grounded by your values and integrity. Be principled. We're all on a journey grounded by values. Never forget the humble beginnings that you come from the sacrifices that have been made to enable you to get to this point. And as you progress in your journeys, hold that as your grounding foundation. Acknowledge that you're deserving and own your seat at the table. This is so important. And I want to build on that because it's one thing to own your seat at the table. It's so important to be able to have your voice heard at that table. And added to that, once your voice is heard at that table, create the right platforms, the right enabling environments so that others can find their way at that seat, find their voice heard at that table. And the last that I want to say to you is please never be shy of claiming the glory of your hard work and dedication. And so I leave you with the mantras that guide my life. I remain teachable, trainable, and very coachable. I believe that feedback is an incredible gift. I also hold on to faith, hope, belief, magic, and love as my guiding principles in all that I do. And as I bring my segments to a close, I want to wish each and every one of the students that have joined in on this call to know that you are on an incredible platform. Your choice as a specialist in supply chain is an incredible one. And I wish you the very best as I hand you over to my co-presenter, who's going to talk to you about working in a fast-paced organization.
Good morning. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I just want to check that you can all hear me. Somebody give me a yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, we can.
I switched on my video so you can see that I am real. I'm not a chatbot, but I will switch it off for the purpose of bandwidth. Let me just share my screen for a moment and make sure that you guys can see what we'll be talking about. Okay, can I get confirmation that you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, do that. Thank you so much, Regina. I mean, I really genuinely wish that I had the support and these words of wisdom when I was much younger. I think they would have given me the self-determination to know that I don't have to carry the world on my shoulders, that I don't have to have all of the answers to every single question. It feeds perfectly into what I'm going to be sharing with you guys. So I will be chatting a little bit about working in a fast-paced organization. And this is having recently, I've been working at Takealot. It's a fast-paced e-commerce space. So I'm really excited to share that with you today. But maybe before we get into that, a little bit about myself. Like I said, I was at Takealot up until very recently. I'm the former group head of planning and digital transformation at the business. And what that means is essentially I drove all of the planning processes, initiatives with the teams. I led projects to implement new systems, to centralize systems so that the supply chain becomes quite digitized and we can make decisions faster with more visibility. From a background perspective, I am a UJ alumni. I did my degree and honors in logistics and supply chain management, and I recently completed my MBA at IE Business School in Spain. The long and short of it is everything in my life, coffee included, I tend to kind of think about the supply chain processes of those products or whatever it is that I'm engaging with. And it really helps me to make everything real, especially because my job is now supply chain. So a bit of words of wisdom, when you live your life, think about everything that's in front of you and what that supply chain, potentially looks like. It's really, really interesting to think about. And maybe a quick view of my journey. Like I said, I started at the University of Johannesburg many, many moons ago. And I like to highlight that it's before the time of Uber, just to kind of signify how incredibly, how much change we've gone through over the last 10 to 15 years, just as the world in general. Back then, if you wanted to get around, you had to call a maxi taxi, or you used to, you walked everywhere, or you had to get like a typical taxi or maybe even a bus. And in Johannesburg at that point, the transport system wasn't very efficient. But today, when you think about it, everything is almost readily accessible on our phones. And that really speaks to how fast-paced and how things have changed and how much consumers actually want everything at the tip of their fingers. Post-graduation, I started my career journey at Sasol. So in petrochemicals, I managed the imports, exports, as well as the logistics of all of their petrochemicals from Secunda and Sasolburg all the way to Durban, and exporting that to the rest of the world. So I was there for about 2 years, and that was an incredible way to kickstart my career. I then went on to Unilever, which was an amazing experience. Unilever makes so many products that we use in our daily lives. So it was really good to move to an organization that had a tangible product that I could hold with my hands and really, feel that brand love and brand engagement with it. And I had a number of roles at Unilever. I started off as a demand planning specialist, which essentially means that I was planning and forecasting what the manufacturing sites had to produce to ensure that we had enough stock in the market. And that was really fantastic because, you get exposed to a lot of different algorithms, but then you also really understand how connected the supply chain is, with a simple thing as really trying to understand what your customer wants through a forecast. I then looked after food solutions in a slightly different role, and that really gave me great exposure to the restaurant environment because food solutions supports all of the restaurants that we enjoy in South Africa. So I went to produce things like the honey ginger soy sauce at KFC that you guys enjoy on your hot wings, if that's a favorite, to bulk packs of Raja and Aromat for restaurants. And the last role that I held there before I left was category planning manager. And essentially, I looked after all of the beauty and personal care products from end to end. So this is from sourcing to manufacturing to ensuring that we've got enough stock supporting all of the marketing plans. And then in 2019, I moved on to faster pace, actually. Unilever was fast paced, but faster pace, which was essentially e-commerce. And I put COVID there as a little bit of an industry shakeup because I started my journey at Takealot in late 2019, around November. So I was there for about 5 months before, COVID hit us in March or so, 2020, and we all got a shakeup. And that shakeup actually accelerated so many parts of the e-commerce space that it became an even faster environment, and that supply chain had to look completely different to what it was before. And there were so many other industries that were obviously shaken up. And I was at Takealot for about 5 years, so 2020 until recently, about a month ago. And right now, where I am excited to be refreshing Africa in my role as a director of business transformation for Coca-Cola. But today's talk is around fast pace, and it's really going to be leaned more around the e-commerce world. So yeah, let's get into it. So what I often like to do is get a gauge for you where you guys are at and what your thoughts are around what fast is in the supply chain environment. So if you've got your phone in front of you, please scan the QR code. I'm going to do it again. Make sure that it all works. Scan the QR code and just give me like one word. What does fast actually mean to you as a supply chain professional? 1, 2, 3 words, put it in, and then in 10 seconds, we'll move on to see what you guys think about it. Okay, gone. Hopefully you guys have put in your 1 or 2 words, and let's see what your thoughts are. Okay, interesting. So efficiency, 100%, speed, agility. Thank you for the emoji to that person. Responding to customer needs, saving money, meeting demands. All of these words are 100% relevant and 100% true. And I like that efficiency, speed, and agility are the ones that are most called out, because that's what's been asked of our supply chains over the last couple of years, particularly in e-commerce, is in order to manage your costs as a supply chain professional, you need to find opportunities to be efficient. And in terms of your customers, what they want is they want everything fast, and they want you to have the agility to meet their demands. So landscape-wise, South Africa has changed. Like I said, COVID-19 gave us a bit of a shakeup. From an e-commerce and internet perspective, there's over 2 million products that are online now available. At Takealot, I think my team and I were managing the replenishment of over 200,000 of the products that are available on the Takealot platform. So that just gives you a sense of the weight and size of how dynamic we had to be. Consumers and everybody in South Africa are becoming more and more internet savvy. We have an internet penetration at this point of around 76%. We know that 79% of digital revenue is attributed to e-commerce, and this is the 2021 start. So it's probably increased more than that at the moment. Everybody is on WhatsApp. This number is probably now 100%. And in fact, WhatsApp for Business has also now grown and exponentially. And when you think about the next generation that's coming up, they are really becoming more online consumers, whether it is buying online, podcasts online, e-commerce online, e-learning online. So thinking about how this is going to impact every single supply chain and the speed of that supply chain is extremely critical. The skills that you guys are learning at your respective universities as supply chain professionals are important. And I just wanted to highlight the key elements and strategic skills that you'll need as supply chain managers going forward, which are obviously leadership and strategic thinking, operational expertise, and that problem solving. So just keep this in mind when you are going through your respective modules. Keep this in mind when you are starting your careers to really say, how do I flex this muscle? How do I get the practice that I need to critically think, to resolve operational issues, to earn my expertise as a supply chain and operational expert? And I'll share with you, just to make sure that I stick with time, I have 5 stories that I wanted to share with you, but I might share 2 or 3, which are really the key takeaways for my presentation today in terms of working in a fast-paced environment. So I'll start off with being curious. When you are in university and you are studying and all you have in front of you is I need to pass this exam, I need to finish, you know, this course. And it's sometimes very easy to graduate and say, I'm done. But the bottom line is you never stop learning. And you can never stop being curious. You need to stay curious and focused and intentional around your career. You will see from the short journey that I shared with you that I have moved through various industries. And there's a reason behind that, and there's intention behind it as well. You don't want to find yourself jumping from one job to the next job to the next job, maybe because they're offering you more money. That's, you know, always an important factor. But stay intentional with your career and stay curious around what you are learning. I specifically moved from petrochemicals because I knew that I had learned and I remained curious in my role during that time, but that's not an industry I wanted to stay in. I wanted to go into more tangible products that I can resonate with in terms of my everyday use. So whether it was Vaseline or it was Dove or it was, you know, Aromat, which I have on my eggs, you know, in the morning when I have breakfast, that is part of the intention that I put in my career path. In applying and kind of moving to Unilever. And even when I moved to that business, I had to learn new skills. I had to learn, you know, meeting people. I had to learn a new industry. So remaining curious and knowing that you don't always have the answers is extremely important. Not only when you kick off your career, even today. I started a new job a month ago, like I said. Curiosity is going to ensure that I understand this business in and out as quickly as possible. The second piece is asking for help. So like I said, I started at Unilever having moved from petrochemicals. I knew nothing about FMCG at that time. You know, how are you making Vaseline? How are you running a line? What line efficiencies look like? I don't know how to forecast on SAP APO, which was a new tool at that point. So, you know, quick story. I started as a demand planner, and my 1 month in, after getting some training on some of the reports, I had to present the forecast plan to my cross-functional teams. This is, you know, marketing, sales, everyone, and tell them the story around why I think our forecast was going up or down and how we've built that bottom up. Now it's the night before the presentation. It's a Thursday night and I'm presenting on the Friday and I messed something up. This is a real story. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm supposed to be wrapping up my presentation and I've gone into the system and to be honest, I messed it up. The result of the forecast is not what we had expected to see in the presentation and I had no way of fixing it. I probably stayed at the office until around 8 p.m. redoing, undoing, you know, trying to fix this forecast so I don't look like an idiot the next day. And most importantly, I don't make my manager look like an idiot. But I learned this lesson the hard way. You know, 8, 9 p.m. in the evening, I had tried everything that I possibly could and I could not fix it. So I was forced to call my manager and ask for help. She was extremely supportive at that point. You know, we hopped on a video call, worked through everything. She showed me exactly where I had gone wrong in the system, and we fixed it, you know. So, you know, long story short, all was well that ended well the next day with the presentation. But when I reflected on that moment, you can tell even today, it really, like, it stuck with me. Because there's 2 things that I took away from that moment. 1, ask for help. 2, ask for help early, right? Often when you are doing a really fantastic degree, you're getting really high marks, you have a high expectation of yourself. So you move into the working world and you think, oh, they hired me. Surely I should know how to do the job, or surely I should have the answers to this thing and that thing. and you then do not ask for help and you bring this A-type personality into your working environment. Don't do that. Be honest and be open to getting help and getting help as early as possible, because it puts you in a much better position to ensure that you deliver the work and you deliver the work effectively. The third thing is personal branding. Now, I ended up having a mentor when I was at Unilever, and he's still my mentor till today, even, with my career at Coca-Cola. And one of the first things he asked me was, what do you want to be known for? Now, when you think about marketing as a function and how they actually establish brands, you think, if I say Nike to you guys, you're going to think, just do it, right? You have to build your own personal brand in industry as well as in the organization that you work in. So I think Claire mentioned earlier in the chat, lean into organizations like SAPEX that are available and really network within industry and understand what kind of brand you want to build for yourself there. Internally also, what do you want to be known for within your organization that you're working for? I said to him at the time, well, I reflected, and then in a follow-up session, I said to him, I really want to be known for being trustworthy and reliable in the organization. That is my brand, so whether I know something or I don't, my business leaders need to trust that I'm going to try and find out. And if I come to them and I say it cannot be done, they know that I've gone the extra mile to try and figure out, and find a solution. And they can trust the thought process that I've gone through, or that my team and I have gone through to get to where we were. So I really wanted to build a reputation and a brand of trust and that of reliability. If you say you're going to do something, do it. And then the fourth one is progress versus perfection. I think this leans very much into what I said earlier. Just considering time, I'm not going to dig too much into the last two, but essentially it's important, even with A-type personalities, to make sure that you are focused more on small improvements and those levers of progress versus perfection. Don't start a job, get given a task, and go off for a day or two or whatever and try and do it completely. Because you're going to come at the end and say, okay, I've finished the task, this is what it looks like. And someone's going to say, yeah, but you've left out this, and this. So make those small progress elements and ensure that you're touching base instead of aiming for perfection, because sometimes perfection is going to take too long. And sometimes perfection doesn't exist either. When it comes to a field like supply chain and in different industries, often it is those small iterations that really move the lever versus trying for this big bang. All right, it's going to take us X number of years and we're trying to aim for perfection. And last but not least is agility and responsiveness. This is really in terms of your organization, but also personally as a professional, supply chain professional, or whatever fields you guys end up in. At Takealot, we really, we had a team that worked on product development, and I worked really closely with them from a supply chain perspective, because if you think about ordering online, you have the app, but of recently you have a different number of ways of accessing the product. One, we can either deliver it to your house, which is one element of how we're being responsive and agile. Two, you can collect it from a pickup point. Three, in other e-commerce platforms, you then have lockers, which gives a different alternative to how you're going to get your parcel. And we've got products like easy return systems. So you need to really think about what your customer wants in whatever industry you're working in, and how do you quickly try to find the solution so that your supply chain remains agile and responsive to it. And then, of course, personally, how do you remain agile and responsive as an industry expert. And it kind of brings us back to this loop of remaining curious and knowing what's happening in the market, knowing what changes are happening in your industry, new technologies, and how do you then implement those in the work that you are leaning into. So if you take away anything from my presentation today, stay curious, ask for help, ensure that you're intentional about your careers and you're establishing a personal brand. Remember, in every industry, progress trumps perfection, and you always have to remain agile and responsive to your customer needs. With that said, I will leave you guys with a quote. The strength of the supply chain is based on each individual link, and each link determines the overall strength of the supply chain. So the supply chain is about teamwork, it's about collaboration and making the overall system as effective as possible. And if every one of you strengthens your own independent personal links, your chain is even stronger. If each and every one of you have put in the work and the effort to become experts and know your field and your industry, when you connect and you collaborate, you can do that in such a meaningful and impactful way. So thank you guys so much for the time and for spending lunch with us. I look forward to really seeing all of you contribute to the supply chain in the upcoming years. That said, I'm going to hand over to Letitia and Tamari, and we're going to have a bit of a Q&A before we end off this session.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to make sure, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. I'm now taking over from my co-presenter, Dr. Gruber, and I also want to say thank you so much for our presenters and for the insightful presentations, as well as for joining us today, everyone who's joining us today. You definitely are making a difference in what we want to do as academics and for the industry. So we are very, very grateful for everything that you do. And then I trust that many of us went through similar things in our life at some stage. So we do believe that there are more questions, but I see we have one question here in the chat. Dikeledi, it's directed to you. It's Alicia Weber, Dr. Weber. She asked, with your impressive career journey, what advice would you offer to our students on effective networking strategies to position themselves in the right circles for career advancement?
Yeah, that's such an important question. Thanks, Alicia. I'll answer the question with a very, very short story. Like I said, I just started a new role at Coca-Cola, and how I got the opportunity to even apply for this role and interview for it and be a candidate for it was actually through networking. So it's extremely important to understand how you are going to network and what are the mechanisms you are going to use to network. When you're in university and you're making friends, it's relatively, I'm going to say, easy in inverted commas. You meet on campus, you share the same classes, or you're living at the same res, or you're going to the same res, etc. Once you are working and you're a professional, your professional institutions are one mechanism in terms of meeting people. And for you guys, it's amazing because you meet as like graduates, professional graduates, very young. You don't know where everybody's going to end up in terms of their careers. You could end up working together. You could end up working for each other. Someone could end up referring you in their organization, etc. So very important that you just carve out and say, right, these are the industry organizations that I can join. That's one avenue of obviously networking. And then the second I would say is to contribute. don't just be a part of the supply chain industry, contribute. And that actually means when you are part of these organizations, have a voice in them. You are going to build and experience certain things as you work, whether you're going to implement something new in your business, or you're going to learn something personally, or you're going to go through hardship, or fantastic new innovations. Bring those learnings back into the industry. And that's honestly the best way to network. And the second piece, I think, is within your organization. Don't just do the work, but actually build meaningful relationships with people. Whether it is your peers or the leadership team within those businesses, just ensure that you are finding ways to connect with people and not just kind of walk into the office, be on your laptop, be on your phone, and then you're going home. That can really get you in a cycle where you're not really building a meaningful career. So those are my two tips: is wherever you are, build those interpersonal relationships, and then obviously second, join these organizations, whether they're the student ones, or much later in life once you're now fully working, and even other organizations or sports. If you play tennis or whatever, sports clubs, etc., those are also avenues for networking. But professionally, obviously, the organizations that are being shared and within your work, across the board, if you're building those relationships and you're giving back, then that really expands your network a lot wider.
Thank you very much. That was a good question, and thank you for addressing that. I see we do have another question also from Dr. Weber that is directed at Regina. You touched on the importance of mentorship and networking. Could you also share your top piece of advice for students on connecting with mentors who can effectively guide them in achieving their career goals?
Thanks for the question. Absolutely. So one of the things around networking, and you've heard bits and pieces come through now as well, is one is staying relevant, recognizing that you understand the direction that you're looking to go towards, and then finding the right people that you see emulating what you're looking for. So as an example, as a graduate, I looked to my most senior people within the Mars group in the field that I was in, and then connecting with what are the things I needed to learn, how do I sort out capability gaps, what was the research work that I did. I started off my career with BP, having done my international graduate, but because I was doing a lot of industry-based work in terms of looking at opportunities for transportation, is how BP actually approached me for a role. So I think connecting with there are different infrastructures that support structured mentorship program. One that I can boldly speak of that has done some great work was another school, the Management School of Southern Africa, that offers career coaching and guidance to connect with those institutes. I think Dr. Weber and the team are also looking at other facilities through the masterclass around connecting students with potential mentors. That's a great avenue. And I think the last bit that I wanted to say around mentorship is find the relevant teams that you look in, that you aspire to be in, and then of course connect with and ask for those help and guidance. Structured mentorship programs adds huge amounts of value as you navigate your career. And I'm happy if you could connect with, and I could put you in contact with some of those organizations. I've already put in one in the chat box, which is the Tartan Institute, which has a lot of opportunities. The platform connects you with like-minded organizations. And as you know, the value chain is quite a vast field. So depending on your area of speciality, you'd be able to connect with the right teams. And again, staying relevant to your specific field that you're wanting to progress in.
Thank you very much for replying to that. I see we have quite a few questions for SAPEX. So Claire, will you just quickly touch on that? We have about 4 minutes. If you can just quickly address those questions about SAPEX. Lee, are you able to hear us? Okay, I think we maybe missed Claire or that she's not available. I'm going to hand over to Dr. Grebe again, if you will just listen to our last comments.
Thank you, Letitia. So we have now come to the end of this mini masterclass. As we conclude, we want to extend our heartfelt thank you to our presenters for the engaging and insightful presentations and all the participants who joined today. We really do hope that you find these sessions as captivating as we do. Looking ahead, our next mini masterclass will take place on the 1st of October, again from 12 to 1, titled Balancing Tech and Talent, Skill for Success in AI-Enhanced Supply Chains. You can find the link to this upcoming session in the chat, and we really do hope to see you there. So for this mini masterclass, we are grateful for your attendance, and hopefully we will see you in October. Thank you.